Howdy Bubs and welcome back. Today we're going to be jumping into GameMaker and we're going to be looking at how to make a little stats view inside our pause menu. So I'm going to show off just implementing 4 stats. You can follow the same logic and implement everything else you'd wish to track. So right now this is what the final view will look like. I press P, we're paused, and over here on the left side we can see enemies defeated 9, projectiles launched 42. Coins collected 4, and we're currently on wave number 4. Let's go ahead and jump in and see how to implement this. So taking a look at our game manager is where all of this is going to be handled. So over in our create event, we're going to be keeping track of a number of things. I'm going to add these stats inside of here. So enemies killed, shots fired, coins collected, wave number, and then depending on how you mess with the modifiers for your player bonuses, such as movement speed, I have a boost, and so it's a limited time boost, and then it stops. And there's no point in really tracking that, at least not for me. Maybe I can track how often it has been, or how many times it has been triggered. But if instead you have a permanent boost that slowly applies as a modifier, you can instead just keep track of what the current player movement is. And so that's what I have just monitored here. It just starts off with the default player movement. Then you can, whenever the player picks up the speed boost, have it update what is being tracked over here. But for the time being, I'm only tracking these 4. We can go into our draw GUI event, and there's a couple of things that need to be added. First off, our setup. This is the font setup to specify creating the font score, that I want it horizontally aligned in the center, vertical in the middle, and the color is white. I have this right above our score text. Previously I had it at the very top. I've moved it down below so that way it's with the score. Then the new portion is right here. We're keeping track of all of our stats, and so all of these get drawn onto the screen. I have also reset this because I had to create a separate font so that way it is a little bit smaller but has all the details that we want here. This will have, again, the stats font, but I want it left aligned. So the position I specify is the left side of the text box rather than the middle or center of the text box. And vertical is middle, and then color is also white. Again, you can play around with these. I have this set up so that way if you wanted to create a completely different setup, patterns, colors, whatever you want, you can for the statistics, and then have a separate one for our score. You can have them all the same. It's up to you. I'm just doing this so that way you're familiar with the process should you wish to change it. And these are the 4 stats I'm keeping track of: enemies defeated, projectiles launched, coins collected, and wave number. And we have those values converted into a string concatenated to this so that way you can draw that text. This is all we need inside the game manager itself. Everything else is handled elsewhere by the things we are tracking. So first off, enemies defeated. If we go over to our enemy, the easiest way to keep track of this is under the destroy event. Right now we keep track of our wave progress for how many enemies are still in the world, increasing the score. And this is the new thing we're going to add, is we're going to talk to the manager and specify there's been 1 more enemy defeated. And that'll handle everything that you need in relation to enemies killed. Next is the projectile. I added a create event so that way every time a projectile was created, it'll keep track of the shots fired and increment it by 1. Then over in obj coin, we also have this added to our collision event. The manager gets the number of coins collected increased by 1. Then over with our spawner progressive, or whatever you named the spawner you ultimately used, I added in here after we determined that there are 0 enemies and we need to spawn a new wave, we just increase the wave number by 1. This is all that is needed for tracking the 4 stats. If you have something else such as the boosts, you could, for instance, whenever the player gets the permanent boost applied here, you can also specify to update it in the game manager as well. But that's actually all we needed for this portion. I did change one thing over in the player. I realized I had a mistake. This was a draw event, and so it became an issue later on whenever we were moving around the larger map. Our health bar actually stayed in the top left corner of the room. So I switched it to a draw GUI event. So again, right click, change event, and then you specify draw GUI, draw GUI, and then I removed the last line that said draw self. That was no longer needed since this is the draw GUI event. This ensures the health bar stays in the top left corner of the screen. And with that implemented, that gives us our stats tracker. So if I pause right now, it's wave number 1. We have 0 enemies defeated, 0 projectiles launched, and 0 coins collected. And now that I do this, we have all of those values updated appropriately. I'm now on wave 3, 0 coins collected, I've launched 15 projectiles, and I have defeated 3 enemies. And now I should have 2 coins collected. We're still on wave 3, I've only defeated 5 enemies, and I've launched 23 projectiles. But it's as simple as that. If you have any questions or need any assistance, just let me know. Otherwise, that's all I've got for you today. Everyone, have a good one. I just wanted to say thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Shout out to my bad bubs, my top 5, my day ones. Y'all have always been there for me. Next up, my baby bubs, the next 5. I always love y'all's support. And finally, for everyone else, any little bit helps. Thank you to all my basic bubs for supporting me along my journey. If you want to continue receiving notifications, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell button.